Welcome to Under the Hood, a blend of business and sociopsychology. Business looks rational from the outside. It isn't. Under the Hood explores the hidden psychological and systemic forces that truly drive execution and performance. Incentives, blind spots, power dynamics, habits, fear. Why do smart organizations repeat the same mistakes? What really separates motion from progress? This is not armchair philosophy. We move from insight to behavioral engineering, practical tools, and decision frameworks you can apply immediately. Understanding is useful. Execution is mandatory. If it doesn't change behavior, it's entertainment.
That is a strong opening. And honestly, it sets the exact right tone for today because we aren't here to just talk theory, We're here to look at the actual mechanics of survival.
Absolutely. And today, we are pivoting to a theme that, well, I think it keeps a lot of leaders awake at night. Or at least it should. The dangerous illusion of success. We are going into a deep dive on the art of strategic defense.
Right. And it is an art form that is rapidly being lost, especially in this age of aggressive growth hacking. Everyone knows how to attack. Very few people actually know how to hold the line.
Yeah, and here is the hook for everyone listening to this. Why do market leaders, companies that seem absolutely invincible, right? They have the cash, they have the brand, the customers. Why did they suddenly crumble? And usually, when you look back, it wasn't because they weren't quote-unquote good companies.
No, not at all. Being good and being defensible are two completely different things. I mean, you can have a fantastic product, you can have excellent sales, and you can still be wide open to an attack that wipes you out in, say, 18 months.
Which is a terrifying thought if you're running a business.
Yeah.
So here is our roadmap for this deep dive. We're going to split this into two main parts. First, we're going to unpack a specific framework. It's a tool, actually, for analyzing barriers to entry. Basically, how to audit your own fortress.
Correct. We need to look at the cold, hard math of defense.
And second, we're going to apply this to a fictional case study. We're calling them Cafe Nova. We're going to watch a giant fall. And this is the really fun part, we are going to rewrite history. We'll look at how they should have fought back using some pretty counterintuitive strategies.
Including some strategies that most boards of directors would find absolutely shocking.
I cannot wait to get to that.
Yeah.
Especially the whole C brand concept later on. But let's start with the framework. You mentioned earlier in our notes that most companies are asking the wrong question when they look in the mirror.
They are. The standard corporate question, the one everyone asks, is, are we good?
Right.
Do we have a nice brand? Are our sales growing? Is our marketing clever?
And, I mean, that feels like a reasonable question to ask.
It feels reasonable, but it's actually narcissistic. It's entirely internal. The right question, honestly, the only question that matters for strategic defense is, if a serious, well-funded competitor entered our market tomorrow, what concretely stops them from taking our business?
That shifts the perspective immediately.
Yeah.
So it's not about how great I am. It's about how hard it is to be me.
Exactly. We have to define strategic advantage very strictly. It only counts if it meets 4 criteria.
Okay, let's hear them.
1, is it difficult to copy? 2, is it long to build? 3, is it expensive to reproduce? And 4, is it emotionally anchored in the client?
If it doesn't meet those,
then it is temporary, period. It's not an advantage. It's just a head start, and head starts disappear.
So to measure this, we are looking at a specific tool from the source material. It's a model, almost like a scorecard or a heat map. Let's walk the listeners through how this works, because the weighting of the scores is, it's fascinating to me. It tells a whole story in itself.
It really does. We call it the barriers to entry assessment. It's a structured model where we look at different dimensions of the business, level A, B, and C. But ultimately, it generates a defense score. It's a composite score based on 4 dimensions.
Okay, let's break down these 4 dimensions, because the weights assigned to them are not equal at all. The biggest one, sitting at 40% of the total score, is payback.
Payback is king.
Why?
Because the question here is, can the competitor get their money back quickly? Think about it. If I invest $10 million to attack you, and I can get that back in 6 months because your margins are super high and the market is easy to enter, I am going to attack you.
Right, the incentive is just too big.
Exactly. But if it takes 10 years to get my money back, I'll put my money elsewhere. If your payback period for an attacker is short, you are completely vulnerable, no matter how strong you think your brand is.
Okay, so that's 40%. The next one is link, at 30%.
Yeah.
Now, when you say link, are we talking about like, oh, I really love this brand of orange juice?
No, that's just preference. When we say link in this model, we mean structural or deep emotional integration. Does the client actually have to use you?
You mean example?
Okay, if you sell a coffee machine that only takes your specific proprietary capsule, that is a structural link. Or if you sell software that holds all of a company's historical data, that's a link. It's about the cost of switching. It's not just a habit, it's dependence.
Got it. So payback is 40, link is 30. Then we have time to market, or TTM, at 20%. That's basically how long it takes to replicate what you do.
Right. If I can spin up a clone of your business on a Shopify server in 2 weeks, your TTM score is 0.
Yeah.
But if I have to build a physical factory that takes 3 years to get certified, you actually have a defense.
That makes total sense.
Well,
And finally, and this is the one that really surprised me, know-how. It is only weighted at 10%.
I know, people hate that one.
I feel like most companies pride themselves entirely on their know-how. They say, we have the best experts, we have the smartest team. Why is it worth so little in this model?
This is a really harsh reality check for a lot of executives. Know-how is weighted low because, look, if the time to market is short and the payback is fast, I can just buy your know-how.
You mean headhunting?
Headhunting, buying the technology, hiring your consultants.
Poaching the team.
Exactly. If the business is attractive enough, meaning high payback, I will literally just hire your head of engineering and pay them double. Know-how is entirely transferable. Unless it is protected by ironclad patents or truly unique trade secrets, your know-how walks out the door and gets in its car every evening.
That is a very sobering way to look at it. So you run this scoring system across the business, you do the math, you get an output. It's a traffic light system.
Yes. Green means defendable. You have a real moat. Orange means needs improvement. And red means vulnerable. You are highly attackable.
And this leads to a concept mentioned in the sources called strategic maturity.
This is the psychological aspect of it all. The day an organization can put a red flag on their own chart without drama, without the CEO getting angry or the marketing director getting super defensive, that is the day they become dangerous.
Because they're finally dealing with reality instead of their own PR.
Precisely. Most companies lie to themselves to avoid the red. They tell themselves these elaborate stories about how much customers love them just to cover up the fact that their switching costs are actually 0.
And just to pause here for a second, because this ties into the core mission of our deep dives.
Mm.
What we're describing right here, this act of forcing a company to look at cold, hard data regarding their vulnerability rather than relying on their narrative.
Yeah.
This is behavioral engineering.
It absolutely is. You are engineering the behavior of the executive team.
Right.
You are forcing them to bypass their own cognitive biases, confirmation bias, optimism bias, and you make them look at the actual mechanics of the market. You are designing a decision-making environment where truth is mandatory.
I love that. Now, for the listeners who are thinking, wow, I need to see this chart, I need to know if my company's in the red, I want to mention that this specific assessment tool, the barrier to entry assessment, is actually available for download for anyone listening who wants to run this audit themselves.
You can download it, although I will add a pretty big caveat here. Doing this alone can be very tricky because of those internal biases we just mentioned.
Yeah, grading your own homework is tough.
Exactly. You might score yourself a green on link because you firmly believe your customers love you, but a neutral observer would look at the exact same data and give you a red.
Right. So while the tool is out there, doing it in a vacuum might just reinforce your blind spots.
Which is why we help with facilitation and guidance. Honestly, it's our core competency. So if you download it and you want a reality check, send us the output via email. We can help analyze it and tell you if you're being way too easy on yourself.
That's a great offer. Because understanding is useful,
Yeah.
but accurate understanding is much better.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move to part 2 of the deep dive. Let's see this framework in action. We are going to look at our fictional business case. Cafe Nova.
Cafe Nova.
Let's set the scene for the listeners. Cafe Nova is the national leader in coffee. We're talking the whole ecosystem. Capsules, machines, beautiful premium boutiques on the high street, plus a huge B2B business in luxury hotels and restaurants.
They are the absolute status quo.
They are massive. They have a 15-year head start on the competition. Their margins are huge. Their image is incredibly premium. If you looked at their annual report today, you'd say this company is completely untouchable.
And that is exactly when the sharks start circling.
So here is the context of the threat against them. A major venture capital fund is looking at the market, and they want to finance a new entrant. But there is a specific trigger event. A change in regulation.
Yeah, the boring legal details that end up mattering so much, the law changes. Suddenly, capsules and machines can no longer be shaped specifically to force brand loyalty. Basically, the physical lock-in of the hardware is legally broken. Compatibility is now mandatory, or at the very least, you can't block third parties from making capsules that fit your machine.
And at the exact same time, we have the digital shift happening. E-commerce is moving from being a nice little bonus channel to an absolute necessity for volume.
So you have perfect storm brewing. The legal wall falls down, and the distribution channel shifts to digital, where shelf space is virtually infinite.
Now, Cafanova, sitting up in their glass tower, they have a massive internal blind spot. They are looking at their green zones on the heat map. They are saying, look, we have 50 premium boutiques of the best cities in the country. We have massive factories with highly complex machinery. No one can recreate that.
And they are totally right. No one can recreate that quickly, but they are answering the wrong question again. They think the barrier to entry is recreating Cafanova.
But the attacker doesn't want to recreate Cafanova.
No, not at all. Let's look at the heat map reality check. If we ran the tool on Cafanova at this exact moment, what do we actually see? We see green in brand fundamentals. Everyone knows their name.
Sure.
We see green in industrial complexity. Sourcing and roasting coffee at that scale is hard. But where is the red?
The danger zone.
The red is in profitability.
Wait, stop there. Isn't high profitability a good thing?
Not for defense.
Explain that.
Margins that are too high scream, "Come eat my lunch," to investors. Think about it. If you are making an 80% margin on a tiny little coffee capsule, I can come in, sell my version for 30% less than you, and I still make an absolute fortune. Your sky-high margin is my primary incentive to attack you.
That is fascinating. So your very success, your profitability is your biggest vulnerability.
Correct. The other massive red zone is market openness. Because of the new law we talked about, switching costs have just dropped to zero. A customer can now buy a cheap capsule at the regular supermarket and just pop it into their expensive Cafanova machine.
And it works perfectly.
Exactly. And finally, supply chain is red, because coffee prices are volatile and logistics are globally exposed.
So Cafanova thinks they are entirely safe because of their fancy boutiques. But the heat map shows they are completely naked on price and switching costs. So let's play out the attack in part 3. How does this actually happen in the real world?
Well, put yourself in the shoes of the competitor for a second, or the VC funding them. Do you try to build better boutiques than Cafanova?
No way. That's incredibly expensive and way too slow.
Exactly. Do you try to build a better brand image?
Hard to beat 15 years of premium celebrity-endorsed advertising.
Right. If I am a smart attacker, I completely ignore your strengths. I do not care about your boutiques. I don't care about your glamorous ads. My strategy is incredibly simple.
What are the steps?
1, I produce compatible capsules entirely legally thanks to the new law. 2, I sell them vastly cheaper to undercut your massive margins.
Because you can afford to.
Because I don't have the overhead of 50 boutiques. 3, I enter via modern trade, supermarkets, hypermarkets, and Amazon, mass distribution. And 4, I ignore the boutique model entirely.
You just bypass their fortress altogether.
I simply step right around it. And what is the result? The competitors didn't beat the Cafanova brand. They didn't even try. They beat the economics and they beat the distribution. They took all the volume, leaving Cafanova stuck holding the bag with all their expensive overhead.
That is a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
You're left paying the rent on the expensive high street real estate while some random new company is selling all the daily refills.
And this dynamic happens over and over again across industries.
Okay, so this brings us to part 4. The counter strategy. What should have happened? Because the sources argue that Cafanova could have stopped this, but it would have required a completely different mindset from their leadership.
A radical shift. Because the goal isn't protect the brand anymore.
What is it?
The goal is reduce the economic attractiveness of the attack. We call this preemption strategy.
So you have to make it look ugly for the other guy before they even start.
You have to mathematically ruin the ROI for the attacker.
Let's talk about how to do that. The first layer of this defense is something you call the B brand.
Right. You launch a mid-tier brand yourself. Yeah. And this isn't just discount Cafanova. It has to be a distinct entity, different name, different look.
And what's the strategic purpose of that?
The purpose is to compress the margins on that vulnerable middle market segment. You price it lower so it competes directly with the potential attackers. You make the margins in that specific segment so incredibly thin that when the VC looks at the market spreadsheet, they say, There's no money to be made here.
You're basically burning the fields so the enemy can't harvest them.
Exactly. It's cannibalization assumed but measured. You accept that some of your premium Cafe Nova customers will downgrade and switch to your B brand, but it's infinitely better that they switch to your B brand than to a competitor's brand.
Keep the money in the family.
Right.
Okay, so that's the B brand. That logically makes sense. But now we get to the part that I think is going to shock people. The C brand. This is the part that, frankly, usually gets you thrown out of the boardroom when you suggest it.
Oh, it is the most controversial part, without a doubt. But it is also the most necessary. Launching a C brand means getting down and fighting in the mud.
So explain this to me. We are Cafe Nova. We are a luxury brand. Why on earth are we launching a cheap C brand?
Because if you don't do it, you leave the door wide open for the lowest common denominator to come in and steal your massive volume. But you have to do it right. The source outlines 5 specific critical keys to making a C brand strategy work without accidentally destroying your own company.
Let's go through these 5 keys because this is the core of the whole deep dive. Number 1 is about positioning.
Right. Radical positioning. The C brand must be totally fundamentally different from the A brand. If Cafe Nova is mature, premium, sophisticated, the C brand must be young, dynamic, maybe a bit loud or irreverent.
So it needs to feel like a completely different company entirely. It shouldn't even look like they are related.
Exactly. You protect the A brand by creating an absolute firewall of style and tone.
Okay, point number 2 is about the financials. How do you price it?
This is where it gets really interesting financially. You might price the C brand at the exact same level as the B brand, or even aggressively lower. But the financial structure behind the scenes is completely different.
How so?
You don't spend a single cent on consumer brand building. You don't buy TV spots. You don't do glossy magazine ads. The budget goes entirely into guerrilla marketing or trade investments.
Trade investments. That means paying the distributors.
Exactly. You are paying the supermarkets. You are buying the shelf space. You are paying for those big end-of-aisle displays. You are essentially using your budget to bribe the channel to carry your product instead of the competitor's product.
Right.
It's a literal land grab. You are buying physical real estate in the store.
And that makes total sense. Because if your C brand product is taking up that physical space on the shelf, the competitor literally cannot be there.
Correct. It's a zero-sum game on the physical supermarket shelf.
Let's hit point number 3, growth.
Yes. This is the positive spin that helps sell it to the board. A C brand actually makes enormous sense because it grows the total market.
By bringing in new people.
Exactly. By offering a fun, cheap, dynamic option, you bring people into the capsule ecosystem who simply couldn't afford Cafe Nova before. You're democratizing the coffee capsule. So, combined with the B brand, you aren't just cannibalizing yourself, you are actually expanding the size of the whole pie.
So you might lose some margin percentage, but you gain massive absolute volume.
Correct.
Now, point number 4. This is the one that operations directors always use to try and kill these ideas. They say, it adds too much complexity. We cannot manage 3 separate brands on the factory floor.
That is a myth, and honestly, it is a lazy myth.
Tell me why.
Because the reality is the synergies are massive. Think about it logically. The C brand uses the exact same coffee inside. It uses the exact same machines on the factory floor to pack it. It is likely the exact same industrial base. Literally, the only thing that changes is the packaging, the cardboard box, and the color of the plastic capsule.
So the guts of the product are identical.
Identical. Furthermore, to keep that complexity extremely low, you strictly apply the 80-20 rule.
Meaning you restrict the options.
Yes. The C brand does not offer 50 obscure flavors like Cafe Nova does. It offers the best sellers only, the top 3 or 4 varieties that account for 80% of the volume anyway. You simplify the SKU count drastically, plus maybe 1 or 2 very limited differentiated references just for marketing buzz.
So you have high volume, the exact same raw materials, and limited variety.
So that is manufacturing heaven, not a complexity nightmare.
So when the ops director says it's too complex, they are just factually wrong.
They are just resisting change. They are not looking at the actual industrial reality.
All right, finally, point number 5, proactivity. And this ties back to the regulation change.
This is the most painful lesson for Cafe Nova in our story. The regulation change regarding the capsule ship compatibility, that was entirely predictable. Laws like that do not happen overnight. They're debated in Parliament for years.
Right, everyone saw it coming.
Exactly. Waiting for the law to actually pass before you launch your B and C brands is just pure wishful thinking.
You're just hoping the problem will magically go away.
Which is not a strategy. You must launch progressively, and you must accelerate your digital channels the second those early discussions around the new law start happening. You need to occupy the terrain long before the floodgates officially open.
Both the digital shelf and the physical shelf.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you wait until the law passes to react, you are already losing. You end up with this frantic, rushed counterattack plan. And then you can't complain that the plan is too heavy to execute because you're the one who postponed it to the absolute last minute.
That is such a crucial point. It's an occupancy strategy. You clog the supermarket shelf, you saturate the Amazon search results so you push all the new competitors to page 2, and you proactively drive up the cost of entry for everyone else.
Precisely. If I own the top 10 search results on Amazon with my A, B, and C brands, good luck to the new guy trying to even get noticed.
It's completely ruthless.
It is defensive warfare.
So moving on to part 5 of the deep dive. We talked a lot about the physical shelf, but let's pivot to digital defense and the financial realities behind all this.
Right. Because digital is not just a sales channel anymore. It is a moat. We need to talk about switching costs. It's not just about selling your coffee online. It's about digitally locking the customer in.
How do you do that effectively?
Through things like smart subscriptions. If I give you a beautiful coffee machine for free, but you sign a 12-month digital contract for automatic coffee delivery, I have locked you in.
That's a strong link.
Or AI recommendations. If my app knows exactly what you like when you drink it, and it auto ships it to you 2 days before you run out, that is a massive convenience lock.
So if they leave, it actually hurts.
Yes. If you switch to a competitor, you lose your historical data, you lose the convenience, you lose your accumulated loyalty points, you make the exit painful for the user.
And here is the financial paradox we mentioned. The CFO is sitting there listening to us just sweating bullets. They're saying this costs a fortune. Launching new brands, building AI apps, paying for supermarket shelf space, this completely eats our margins.
And the CFO is absolutely right. It does eat margins. But the question they're asking is wrong. The question isn't, can we afford to invest? The real question is, can we afford not to invest?
Because the alternative is zero.
Exactly. If you don't cannibalize yourself, someone else is going to do it for you. And trust me, that new competitor won't care one bit about your legacy costs. They won't care about your massive factory overhead. They will just take the volume and leave you to die.
So you literally have to be the one to pull the trigger on your own high margins.
Yes. It is mathematically better to own a smaller piece of a lower margin pie than to own 100% of nothing.
So sequencing. How do we roll all this out without exploding the company in the process?
You definitely don't do it all at once. It's a phased approach. Step 1, reinforce digital. Build that data wall and those smart subscriptions first.
Lock in whoever you can.
Exactly. Step 2, launch the C brand. Occupy the physical and digital terrain. Fight in the mud. Secure the volume.
Step 3.
Launch the B brand to catch the mid-market transition. And then, step 4, only then do you adjust your premium A brand pricing if you absolutely are first to.
That is a very clear roadmap.
It works if you have the discipline to follow it.
Yeah, this has been a massive deep dive. Let's do a quick recap of everything we've covered today for the listeners. First, we looked at the barriers to entry framework. It is all about the math. Payback, link, time to market, and know-how.
With payback being the ultimate decider.
Right. Then we analyzed Cafanova, the giant that fell because they confused brand strength with actual defense, and their massive margins were basically a giant target on their back.
The illusion of success.
And finally, we explored the solution. Preemptive self-cannibalization via B and C brands to destroy the attacker's ROI before they even launch.
And specifically, using that C brand to physically block the competition from entering the market on the shelves.
And remember, the tool we talked about, the barrier to entry assessment, is available for download. But as we mentioned, doing this alone is really hard. Your own biases will almost certainly get in the way. We're here to help facilitate that. It is our core competency. So if you download it and run the numbers, send to us via email. We can help analyze the output.
We genuinely love seeing those charts.
Any final thoughts on behavioral engineering before we wrap?
Yes. This entire strategy we just outlined requires overcoming massive organizational ego. The fear of cannibalization is natural, but it is fatal. Behavioral engineering in this context is about designing a system where you assume competition will happen rather than hoping it won't. You literally have to engineer the denial out of the boardroom.
That is incredibly powerful. And it brings up a provocative thought to leave you with. If you're listening to this, ask yourself, what if the very thing you are proudest of today, Your huge margins, your premium status is the exact reason you won't exist in 5 years.
Something to keep you awake tonight.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Under the Hood, a blend of business and socio-psychology. And remember, understanding is useful. Execution is mandatory.